Hey guys, I'm Matt, a developer from Ohio, and in this video I'll be walking you through the Area Calculator project. To complete this project, you'll need to be familiar with variables, string formatting, conditionals, and if-else blocks. Let's get started. In this project, we're going to write a Python program that computes the area of circles and triangles. Our program will prompt the user for a shape, calculate the area of that shape, and print out the result. We'll begin by writing a multi-line comment that describes what our program does. It's always helpful to let other programmers know what your program does, so they don't have to read the whole thing. We'll use the triple quote to open our multi-line comment, and we'll write something in here like calculates the area of circles and triangles. You can write whatever you want in here. The first thing our program should do is notify the user that it's up and running. We'll print a message. Print area calculator is running. Now when the program starts, you'll see this message. Before we can calculate any areas, we need to know which shape we're working with. We'll prompt the user to enter C for circle or T for triangle and save this in a variable. We'll call this variable option, and we'll get raw input, and the prompt that we want to show is enter C for circle or T for triangle. Because circles and triangles have different area formulas, we'll start with just circles. We'll write an if statement that checks if the user inputted C. We'll write if option equals C. Remember to use the double equals sign here, because a single equals sign is for assignment, and a doubles is for evaluation. We'll add a colon, and this block is where we're going to write our code. Make sure that you're one space indented over. Our circle logic will go inside of this if block. We'll prompt the user for a radius and save that in a variable. Radius equals raw input, and I'll say enter a radius. We've gotten a string from our user, but we need a number. We can wrap our prompt in the float function to convert the user's input into a floating point number. So I'll type float, and then I'll wrap this input in parentheses like that. We can now calculate the area of our circle with this radius. We'll store that in a variable called area. And the area is pi, which for our purposes, 3.14 will be precise enough. Multiply that by the radius, and we'll take the radius to a power of 2. Finally, we'll print out the result using string formatting. We'll print out the area of a circle with radius. Here I'll insert the first string, which is going to be our radius, is, and I'll insert the second string, which is going to be our area. Then you use the percent sign to indicate that you're now passing in strings, and we'll pass in the radius and then the area. So the radius will take the place of this first string, and the area will take the place of this second string. Let's test this half of our program. Go ahead and save your file. Then come over here to the terminal and type in Python, and then the name of our file, which is areacalculator.py. Press enter, and if everything runs correctly, you should see this message, and then a prompt for C or T. Our program only does C for now, because we haven't done the logic for T. So go ahead and hit C, enter any radius you want, and you should see that we've printed out this sentence with the radius and result put in. Now it's time to move on to the triangle half of our program. We'll add an else-if statement under our if block to check for T instead of C. So we'll come down here, indent back, use ELIF, which is short for else-if, and then check that our option equals the string T. Now that we're working in the T block, make sure that you're one space indented. We need two inputs for a triangle, base and height. So first, we'll prompt for the base. We'll make a new variable base and get the raw input, enter a base, just like we've done for everything else. And just like with this radius, we're going to need this to be a number instead of a string. So we'll go ahead and wrap this in float. Next, we can prompt the user for a height. we'll get our height, float, raw input, and our string will be enter a height. Now we can get the area and save it in a variable. Our formula is area equals 1/2 base times height. So we'll create our new variable area and set that to 0.5 times base times height. Finally, we can print our area using string formatting, just like we did with the circle. So I'll use print the area of a triangle with base first string and height second string is third string. Our first string here is the base, second is the height, and third is the area. Let's run our program again. Hit save, come over to the terminal, and run your program. Now we can enter C or T, but what happens if we enter something other than C or T? If you enter anything else in here, our program doesn't do anything at all. To handle this possibility, we'll add one last else block that delivers a message if you added an invalid input. For our T block, we'll come down, indent back, and add else. And this else block will run only if it's not C and not T. Add the block, indent one space over, and we'll print out a simple message like string is an invalid input. And we'll pass in option so that they can see which string was an invalid input. Because we started with area calculator is starting, we'll end with area calculator is stopping to let the user know that the program is finished. Now this doesn't rely on any of these three blocks, so we want it to be completely separate. We'll come down here, indent back, and instead of starting a new block, we'll just write our code all the way left aligned here. That way it happens regardless of what happens in these conditionals. We'll print out a message saying area calculator stopping. This will always happen by the time we reach the end of our program. Run our program one more time to make sure that it handles invalid inputs and prints our exit message. Save your file, then run the program one more time. In an invalid input, we get our message that I is an invalid input because I typed in I instead of C or T, and we get our exit message that says area calculator is stopping. In this project, we used Python to create a program that calculates the area of circles and triangles. We used conditionals and if-else blocks to create a control flow that reacts to a user's input. Control flow is the fundamental basis for all programming logic, so what you've learned here is really useful going forward. I've been Matt for Codecademy. Happy coding!